Voiceover Coffee Shop, Episode 19.
Welcome to the Voiceover Coffee Shop, where we share our morning with some of the finest names in voiceover. And now, here's your host, voice actor Andrew Morrison.
Hi there. My name is Andrew Morrison, and welcome to the Voiceover Coffee Shop, where we start our day with some of the finest names in voiceover. If you'd like to know more about me, feel free to visit my personal website at www.voicebard.com. In this episode, we have coffee with my dear friend, J. Michael Collins. J. Michael is an award-winning demo producer and voiceover talent who has worked with some of the biggest companies, brands, and organizations on the planet. In this episode, we talk about adapting to a full-time voice schedule, marketing to high-end clients, the 3 types of voiceover prospects, and the fundamentals of a great demo. How are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So how do you take your coffee?
Black, like my men. Wait, hold on. That's an old line from Airplane, isn't it? Yes, actually, very black espresso, and I go hardcore.
Okay. So you initially, I know you went to college for political science and journalism. Was that before or after you started working in radio?
During. Well, I guess after I started working in radio, because I started working in radio at 15. Actually, my radio career was fairly over by the end of my freshman year in college. I think I crapped out of radio before I was 20, but was doing actual voiceover work for station sponsors and was starting to turn that into a little budding career at that time. So radio got me going.
Okay, and so that's kind of where you decided to leave radio and go into voiceover full time?
Well, yeah, I mean, I studied my degrees in political science, and in my mind's eye, I wanted to be a lawyer, and then eventually possibly had some grand political aspirations. But all of a sudden, I find myself leaving college, and I'm making, I mean, not a lot of money, but I'm making a legitimate income doing voiceover work. And I had the chance to go to law school. I deferred it for a year. My family thought I was insane, but I made a little bit more that year, and I'm like, I want to try and do this, because back then you didn't have to do what you do today, which is work like a donkey. Back then I was working 10 hours a week. It was awesome. And I'm like, all right, we're going to see if I can make this work. And, it was not the worst decision.
Okay, so how has your daily routine changed from when you first started in voiceover to now?
It's changed a lot, and the biggest reason is that the industry has changed a lot. So if I go back to the beginning, I was just agency rep talent. I would show up at, casting directors' offices, at studios, read in front of agents live for auditions the way they used to do it. I'd book a job a week or two, and made a decent living off of that. Lived on a golf course, and had a nice car, and was a bachelor in my 20s, and thought that was as good as it gets. And I was working again, literally 5, 10, 15 hours a week and playing a lot of golf. It was pretty cool. Okay. And then the industry changed about 15 years ago. All of a sudden we moved into this kind of DIY world that we live in now, and things started to shift. And I was one of the early adopters of that. And I had a lot of people kind of yell at me, "You're going to destroy your career. You shouldn't do it that way. You have to do it the way it's always been done." And I said, look, this looks like there's going to be some money here. And I started going down that road, and the next thing I know, I'm buried. I'm not working 10 hours a week. I'm working 40, then I'm working 60, then I'm working 80. And it's like, whoa. And I will tell you that the biggest mistake I ever made in my life was spending those 10 years on that golf course. Because if I had known that there was the possibility to go out and find your own work and to hustle it and to be your own agent in some ways, and I love my agents. I got a lot of agents, and God bless them, because they all bring me work, and I want to put as much food on their table as I possibly can. But if I'd known that this other thing existed, I'd be retired right now. I wouldn't be sitting here. So Might with you, because it's nice having coffee with you. But so that's the biggest change, is that I work like a dog now. My Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're 16-hour days. And Monday, Friday, maybe 6 to 8. And I don't feel bad for me. I get a lot of breaks. I take a lot of long weekends, and we take weeks here and there. But when I work a lot, and just didn't used to be that way. And now that's the lay of the land. And truth be told, now if you're just getting into the business now, you can't really not do it that way, because
Right.
the old days of just having that one mother agent who fed you. I know a few people who still do that, but that's the very, very small minority.
So what kind of helps you with adapting to those changes from working those 10-hour weeks to 16-hour days? What were some of the, whether they be business adaptions or personal adaptions that you had to make during that time
I
period?
will give you the crassest answer possible to that, which
Please.
is that I'm money motivated.
Yep.
I'm one of those people who, how much money is enough? More. And the sudden realization that I had a little home studio that wasn't just a home studio, but it was an ATM machine, was kind of all the motivation I needed. And that just, to the point that where I finally realized I had a problem was the look that I got from my brand new bride as we were departing for our honeymoon, and I asked if I could bring my mobile rig. And that was almost a very short marriage. Fortunately, she kept me. But so that's what I had. That's why I started to figure out work-life balance a little bit more. But in that kind of interregnum, it was go, 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 go. And it's part of it's just because of the fact that I'm money motivated, and I have this. I'm the oldest child in my family. I'm the only one who remembers getting yelled at for ordering a pizza because it was too expensive, or not being able to get the Nikes that I wanted because they were $50. Okay. My family did better as I became older, and the younger kids don't remember those days as much, but I do. And I think since I was a little kid, I've had this terror of not being able to have the things I want, not being able to provide the life I want to provide for my family. And it just keeps my rear end on fire and keeps me going.
Okay. So as one of the steps to provide that sort of lifestyle when you're marketing to a new client, how do you persuade them of the value of what you have to offer as a voiceover talent?
I think the most important element of that is sort of pre-qualifying that they're somebody who is persuadable. And there are basically three kinds of clients in the voiceover industry. There are those who are strictly interested in value and are focusing entirely on price. Okay. There are those who are sort of in the middle. There are a lot of production companies out there who want good VOs. Okay. But they have a budget. There's a line that they're not going to go over, okay? And they're kind of in the middle, so you've got to play a bit of poker with them. And then, like any part of the business, there are high-end clients. There are premium clients where the budget doesn't really matter. What matters is the quality of the talent that they're going to get. And what I've done is I've built my, when the DIY world started, a VO, all of the fish were swimming in this direction going, we're the cheapest. You can get us for the lowest price. Here's great quality, and it's not going to cost you much. Here, price, price, price. And I said, no, I'm going to be Louis Vuitton. And if you have to ask, you don't need to know. And you'd be shocked, even today with clients, how much exclusivity and a sense of not being always available can actually be enticing to clients. You might think it's counterintuitive, where you say, sorry, I can't do it until Friday. I'm gonna lose the job. Oh no. In many cases, you just shot your value up in the eyes of that client. I'm sorry, I'm fully booked for the next few days. I can get you in on Friday. Now, there's some clients, budget's big enough, big job. Yeah, I'll get you in right now, right? But at the end of the day, exclusivity and lack of availability are very attractive. There's a reason that people wait outside in a line to get into Louis Vuitton to go in and spend $1,000 on a pair of shoes or $10,000 on a handbag. Okay, you would think they should be catered to, right? No. Exclusivity. There's a psychology about this. So I think the again, long answer to a short question, but make sure when you're marketing that you're marketing to a prospect that is receptive to an argument for value and for quality, not just price.
So I see a lot on social media where you're posting pictures of you always in a suit, always eating at the nicest restaurants in town. Is that strategically towards that? So when clients go and look at you, that's what they're seeing? Is it
No,
first
what
class?
what you see on my social media is snippets of our life. And the things I love. Okay, so you'll see fine dining. I do like my fancy food, but you know what? I like my chicken fried steak too. I like my loaded tater tots too. Had some of that last week. That's fun, and I posted pictures of those too.
Mhm.
So you see what's real. This is our life. You see my kid because I love him, more than anything in the world, and he's just the light of our lives. You see me going to ball games when I can, when the world's getting back to normal, because I love sports. You see when the world's more normal, travel. These are the things we love to do. That's not really part of my marketing. My Facebook, which is where a lot of that stuff lives,
Mhm.
that's my interaction with my friends and with people in the community. Social media marketing for me, to be honest with you, the only one where I've ever had consistent success finding quality VO clients has been LinkedIn.
Gotcha. Okay, so back to the value in your clients. If you were to have one client where there were no barriers towards it, where it was just an instant client, what would your dream client be?
Oh, I
And it
mean,
doesn't
probably
necessarily have to be a brand. It can just
right.
be a personality or a type of client.
Honestly, probably something for a sports team that I love, so the Boston Red Sox or the Washington football team or something like that. And those are the jobs where you get them, and it sometimes doesn't matter what the budget is. It's like doing this cool thing,
Right.
right? I'm on the jumbotron, right?
Right.
That kind of stuff. To me, that's if it has something to do with something that I love and that I'm passionate about, that's the dream client for me.
Okay. And so going into what made you want to start doing demo production?
That's a good question. And if you go back, it's only been like, I don't know, 12,
2010,
13.
somewhere around
Yeah,
there?
but I mean, just going back to like the history of demo production, it's only been like 15 years that pro demos have really been a thing. I mean, Chuck Duran was kind of the architect of that becoming a thing, and it really wasn't a thing until he started that, and then a lot of us kind of followed in his footsteps with that. At the end of the day, what it really derived from was the fact that we would get back, or we do a big national spot, right? And back in the day, even 15 years ago, for most talent, most successful talent, their reels were real work. Okay, and we do some big national spot and be like, man, I can't wait to put this on my reel and to show it off. And then we'd get it back and we go, what did they do to it? And the production was terrible. And we started to realize that, we can actually make this sound better, at least for demo purposes, for voiceover purposes, because they'll produce these things for radio one way, they'll produce them for TV a different way, they'll produce them for a different station a different way, or a different show a different way, whatever it might be. And it's not always what you would expect. And we just started to realize that we could do it better. And so that's I started doing my own. And then I had a few people who heard those going, oh, where'd you get those done? I'm like, I did them. Wow, can you do one for me? And I think the first few we did, I charged like $300. And then
Sounds there around those times.
right, and yeah, right, and then all of a sudden over time, it just it blew up. All of a sudden, people heard them and they're like, oh, these are pretty good. Can you do it? And then of course, business brain comes in and says, oh, okay, that's a business. So let's make that a business, and that's where JMC Demos was born.
Gotcha. So what do you believe are some of the fundamentals of what make a great, maybe even award worthy demo? And
Right.
is it hot garlic butter?
Well, hot garlic butter helps everything. It's actually what goes through my veins. I have to see my doctor about that on Monday. But in any case, what makes a great demo at the end of the day? Here's the thing: production is a given. Okay, if you're not getting great production, you've already made a mistake in choosing your demo producer. There are probably about a dozen of us out there who you can trust to do pretty good work consistently, and then there are a lot who you can't. Okay, but there are probably a dozen out there who you can. But production is a prerequisite that should be assumed. What makes a great demo is content and direction and performance, and the content needs to be bleeding edge. It needs to be current. It needs to be as relevant to the market as it can possibly be. Commercial is a really good example of this. Even since the pandemic, commercial has changed. One of the biggest changes is humor in commercial. If you go back a year and a half or 2 years, okay, humor was light, bright, quirky, fun, perky, and silly. Okay, well, it's still quirky, but now it's weird, awkward, down, quiet, bizarre, a little odd, okay, uncomfortable. It's because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody wants light, bright, silly, happy, and quirky right now, right? But they still want to do humor, so they had to find a different way to do it, and it's just different. It's not massively different, but it's different enough that if you've got a big, sunny, silly read on your demo, you're going to get some people. I was before we were talking, I was doing a demo review. Jill Kershaw and I, she's the head of Sound and Fury Casting in LA, probably the biggest casting company out there right now. And we were doing a live demo review for VO Atlanta. And, as we're going through these people's demos, every time she heard something big, presentational, silly, over the top, really bright, she shut down. Because it's not where the market is right now. The market's small. The market's quiet. The market's not trying too hard. The market's effortless. You need to know that. If you don't know that, if your producer doesn't know that, if your producer doesn't know how to direct you to that place, you may have something that sounds good in a vacuum, but we don't get hired in a vacuum. We get hired in the real world, right? And, it's important that's the art. The art is around the content. It's around the sound. It's around the performance and the direction. And quality demo producers are going to write the copy for you. It's going to be copy that's suited to you, but that also matches what the market wants and that highlights you in your best light. And the other thing that's really important is that you work with somebody who plays in the genre that they're producing for you. And that doesn't mean they have to be a voice actor. They're great. Chuck's a good example. He's not a VO, he's a producer, but he plays in the areas, he works in the areas that he produces. There are other demo producers out there who do the same thing. They specialize in certain areas that they produce, that they may be behind the glass, okay, but they're not VOs, but they still play in those areas. Make sure JMC demos, we do animation and video game demos, but if you do an animation or video game demo with us, you will never see me other than via email, because I don't play in animation and video games all that much, which means we have Matt Curtis and we have Chris Sharp out there doing the script writing, doing the directing, and doing the production, because those guys know their stuff and they work for my team. If you do a radio imaging demo with me, I know imaging, you're going to get me, but you're going to get AJ McKay too. He's going to be a co-director. He's going to help with the scripting because I know it, but he lives and breathes it every single day, and he's probably the best in the business. You're going to get people who know what they're talking about. If you go to another producer, you should be going to someone who is producing in the area of their expertise. If you hire an imaging guy to do your commercial demo, it's probably not going to turn out too well.
So what do you do to kind of stay on top of that pulse? Because I also noticed that you run your blog. And whenever I see something on your blog, like earlier this year, it was video game trailers and how video game trailers are going to be the next big thing. And then all of a sudden, maybe a month or two later, I constantly see video game trailers coming out. And so how do you kind of stay intuitive on what's going on? Other than just absorbing media.
Well, I have an advantage, which is that I got a lot of agents, which means I see copy and content 3 months before it's on the air. Okay. And I can have a little bit of an inclination of what's coming. Plus, you develop a little bit of a gut in this business after a while where you can sort of smell where the winds are blowing the market. One of my engineers, Tyler Boss, and myself, we were the only two people who cut COVID spot demos last March, and guess what? I booked on that thing every day for 8 weeks. We didn't sell them to anybody because we thought that would have been a little crass, but we booked on left and right until that read that, we're right here by your side, until that became a cliche, right? And then after about 2 months, nobody wanted to hear that anymore. But for 2 months, you have to keep your eyes on where things are moving. The more agents you have, the more you're going to be aware of the copy that's coming down the pike that's going to be on the air in 2 months or 3 months or more or less sometimes. And that will give you a little bit of an advantage. And I think that's why, a lot of the top demo producers are people who are actually working in those fields, because we're seeing that stuff and we're going, oh, okay, that's where it's going. We can get ahead of the pack. And what that does is it gives your demo at least a few more months of life. Okay. Because at the end of the day, a broadcast genre demo, got about 2 years. You may not have to replace it in 2 years, but you're probably going to need to update or refresh it in 2 years. And by the way, a lot of demo producers offer that service. Single spots. You don't have to come to a whole new demo. Okay. But you're probably going to have to make a tweak. Non-broadcast, a good producer can make an e-learning demo or medical demo or corporate demo that can live for 4 or 5 years, because those don't change quite as fast as certain other genres. But for broadcast, you've got to stay ahead of the trends.
Gotcha. So what are some of the resources that have overall helped you in your voiceover career?
That's an interesting question. For me, I think it's just the community. It's being, and again, I think go back to like mistakes I made in my career. I think in addition to that 10-year period where I was just, Mr. Anonymous voiceover guy who had a decent life, I also was not engaged in the community. I wasn't front and center talking to anybody until 2007, 2008, something like that. I really just wasn't participating in this great big community we've got out there. I didn't really know it existed up until that point. And I think with the advent of social media, Facebook in particular, which was really becoming big around that time, that's where I started to realize, whoa, look at all these people, and they do what I do. And well, this guy actually has heard of me, saw one of my spots. That's cool. I've seen his stuff, right? And to realize that there's this great big friendly community of like-minded individuals who are all batshit crazy, and we do this for a living, and so I think that's been the greatest resource for me, is just getting to know more about the industry by learning from the people who are in it. And I think there's still a lot of talent out there who are like that, who are just kind of disconnected and not plugged in. There are parts of social media you want to stay away from. There's some groups and there's some conversations that are just toxic. Okay. And those you need to tune out. But the core of the voiceover community is a happy, giving, supportive group. And the reason is, look, we're the only part of the entertainment industry that grew in 2020 substantially. Okay. Those of us who have been in this business for more than 5 minutes, we know that we don't have competition. And that's not an arrogant thing. What I mean by that is that we know that there's more work out there than there is quality talent to do it. And we come from a place of abundance, not from a place of scarcity, which is why you don't see the same kind of backbiting in voiceover that you see maybe in on camera and music and other parts of the entertainment industry. We know we're going to get ours. So we're going to help you get yours.
Gotcha. Okay. So if you were to write a letter to yourself before, from your beginning days of voiceover, from now, what would that letter to yourself say?
Maybe be a little less money motivated, because life is worth stopping to smell the roses from time to time. Remember that you have a wife and a child, and not just a microphone. And maybe start that DIY stuff earlier so you could be out earlier.
Okay. And where can people find you? And I understand that you have a podcast. And where can people find your podcast?
Well, if you want to find me, lay out a chicken fried steak, and I, like Scooby-Doo to a Scooby snack, I will be there in short order. But other than that, you can
or
go
lobster.
or lobster.
You ever get tired of the lobster jokes?
No.
I was just curious.
Where'd my mug go? Did you guys see this? This is my wife gave me this. You're my lobster. So you can find me, email jmichael@jmcvoiceover.com. You want to listen to the demos we produce, jmcdemos.com. Want to check out voiceover stuff, jmcvoiceover.com.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Much obliged.
I really hope you enjoyed listening to J. Michael talk about how he built himself into the man he is in the voiceover world today, as well as the power of exclusivity in your voiceover business. If you'd like to know more about him, book his coaching, or schedule him to create a demo of absolute magic, you can visit him at www.jmcvoiceover.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Voiceover Coffee Shop. For more information on guests, new episodes, and more, be sure to visit www.vocoffeeshop.com.